when it comes to entrepreneurs, like what are some of the biggest mistakes you've seen them make, in failing to create the right, let's say, like legal foundation and protecting their business? Like what are the things that, I guess they commonly overlook that it's really important to protect?
I think that oftentimes entrepreneurs, I think now they're concerned with intellectual property more so than they were in the past. But I think the one thing that they make a lot of mistakes on is employment and how to understand independent contractors versus employees, when to make that shift. What are the compliance things that you need to have in place? Those are kind of the issues that I see people running up against more often than not. And then also sometimes issues with their sales pages and, the promises that they're making, the disclaimers that they need, like those kind of things. I think that a lot of times they don't realize that there's certain things you can and cannot say on, items that you're putting out into the world, whether that's video, whether that's audio, whether that's a sales page. There's certain claims and things that you cannot make. And there's certain ways that there's nuance to the way it is that you have to say certain things in order to, yes, make sure that you have the sales that you want, but also at the same time, this part of the law is constantly evolving and changing with privacy policies, terms and conditions, and the way it is that, European standards are very different than, US standards and these kinds of things. So I think that they run into a little bit more complication with understanding how to actually deal online in a way that won't get them slapped with, a legal issue of, different sorts. So I think that that's some of the main stuff that I come up against now.
Yeah, because it's fascinating. It's like, who would have thought, right? The people that are saying, hey, if you attend this real estate course, you'll be a millionaire, right? That someone would not approach that with skepticism. But there are people obviously being taken advantage of.
And there's so many ads like that. If you go onto, YouTube or Instagram or, like you will see so many ads like that and so many empty promises, and people fall for it. And I think that there is a lack of ethics when it comes to the way it is that people put their things online, and some of the assertions that they're making around what their product can and cannot do and what it can provide and the results and things like that. And they rent these fancy houses and stand in them and,
yep.
and say, yeah, you can be like me. And it's like, but to be honest, like Michael, that's the entertainment industry. They rent cars, they rent, chains for videos and stuff like that. And they sell you a dream. So it's kind of similar in that regard.
And to your point, I mean, it seems like the barrier to entry has been like lowered and continues to be lowered. So now somebody can really go online, post a video. They don't necessarily maybe that they don't even have a registered business. There's no brick and mortar, right? It's all done virtually, and it's like it can be presented a certain way. So I imagine that probably creates a greater emphasis on like legitimate businesses to actually have that correct legal foundation.
Definitely. And also, the other thing that I run into often is issues with security, because there's so many data breaches that are happening now with businesses, and many businesses are asking me, like, what are the ways that I can kind of secure information for my clients, secure information for, on the back end for my company, like things like that. And I think that, that's just, the ways of the internet now. Information can be easily found, easily accessed, and, it can create certain data breach issues as well. And so I think that the legal foundation for an entrepreneur is more complex than it used to be, but there's still certain things that are necessary. Your intellectual property, your contracts, your the agreements that you make for the money going out of your business in terms of what you're selling and the money coming, into your business. Different things that have to do with the way it is that you conduct your business actually online, the foundation of putting your tax structure in place and your business entity in place, and how you need to transition that over time. And depending on if you're taking, what kind of agreements do you have with investors and, venture capitalists. So there's all different types of things. And so I think that there are some things that are foundational, but there are many things that are not a one size fit all. And so that's why it's so important to actually speak to an attorney and talk about these things so that you know what's best for your business specifically.